Do you ever find yourself frustrated in homeschool? Well, if you have, you're like the rest of us. Welcome to humanity. So come along and we're going to talk about it. Hi, my name's Amanda from Learning to Love Well, and today we're going to talk about what we do when we are frustrated in homeschool. Before we get into that, this is a channel dedicated to biblical encouragement about homeschool and homeschooling from a biblical perspective. We talk about everything from the practical to sales to STEM projects to ideas on how to work on a budget and all kinds of things. And sometimes we just have real mom talks. And today is definitely one of those real mom talks. So, if you have been home with your kids 24/7 and you've got the dishes and you've got laundry and you have homeschool and you have 5 readers to do and you have maybe one child that's struggling in something or maybe 2 children that are pining for your attention, possibilities of frustration. Because when you are in the thick of it, sometimes getting frustrated is super normal. And I think this is where a lot of moms get the condemnation where it's like, maybe I'm just not cut out to homeschool my kids. I get frustrated and then I feel bad. And then I feel like I shouldn't be teaching my kids because I don't like this kind of math or I don't like that kind of math or I just can't teach them phonics on this and insert problem here, and we get frustrated and then we think we're not qualified. And the truth is that if we're all very honest, I don't know you could find a homeschool mom out there that would tell you that there hasn't been a day that there was frustration. Or find a public school teacher that says there wasn't a day without frustration. They would be lying. Like, it's just a part of what happens being human. And when you are dealing with these young lives, we want to hold ourselves to the accountability that God gives us in Scripture, and we want to model godly character, and we want to do things right and really cherish the lives that the Lord has put in front of us. The scripture that this, that kind of encompasses this is in Ephesians 4:26. It says, "Be angry and do not sin." So be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger. And of course it tells you that because we don't want to give a foothold to the devil. But I want to focus on the first part of it. Be angry and do not sin. If you're dealing with frustration and your child just isn't getting something, or maybe all of your kids are hyper and you can't get any of them to settle down and it feels like complete chaos, or maybe you're just not focusing, or this homeschool day has just felt different because it has just been a harder day. That is okay. Every single one of us go through that. I would encourage you to pray for peace, that God will intervene and give you peace in your homeschool or in your home. And yeah, so let's start with things that I have done and what I would recommend for this. So number 1 is walk away and pray. In my parenting and in my homeschooling, if I don't know if I need patience, if I am lacking patience, if there is something that I am struggling to teach, I'm praying. James 1:5 tells me that if I ask God for wisdom, that he'll give it generously to us without finding fault. Like he will give us the wisdom that we ask for. And because of that, if I am frustrated, if I am finding myself frustrated, whether it's a problem, whether it's just everyone seems to have just been super hyper, or it has just been more of a frustrating homeschool day, or maybe it's because you just can't talk and you've tried the same reader 3 times and you just feel like you can't get your words to work for you that day, it's okay. Take the time to ask God. Say, God, I just need you. I need wisdom. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to teach this. I don't know how to make this easy for this child. I don't know how to just get everything together. There has been plenty of times that I have just simply said, okay, everyone go to recess. Everyone take a 20-minute recess. Everyone go take a 20-minute recess and we'll come back. And during that time, I can take that time to get alone with the Lord and really talk to God about my frustrations. If I do not do that and I just continue to try to persevere through it without taking that time to really just connect and talk to the Lord, I don't want to ever do anything frustrated. And the reason is because I don't want to sin in my anger. I don't want to allow anything to grip my heart that would possibly cause me to say something in a way that could be detrimental to our kids. We live, sadly, in a very fallen world, and it is easier to tear down things sometimes than it is to build them back up. Proverbs tells me that life and death is in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. And because of that, I do not want to say something to my children that would make them feel like they're a burden, that they're less than, that they're dumb, that they can't do it. I would never want them to feel like they're a burden, they're hard to homeschool, like I just don't like them. And sometimes in our words, we can easily say something that sounds harsh or mean because we're frustrated. And because I don't want to do that, I would rather send my kids to recess for a few minutes than I would say something that I would regret or that would hurt them. Because I want them to know that they are loved and cherished and cared for, and that we can have a frustrating day. We can have a frustrating subject. Goodness, we can even have a frustrating year. But that is the problem we are choosing to attack together, and not a problem that I'm looking at them like they're the problem. And so because of that, take time, whether you have to send them to recess, walk away, pray, talk to God, and ask for wisdom. This, I can't tell you how much this has freed up so much stress for me. And it just puts me in a better frame of mind because Jesus is far more loving. If you see what he put up with in the disciples alone, you will see that he handled it perfectly all the time with 12 disciples who seemed to get situations and all kinds of stuff wrong. And it's kind of cool. It's very reassuring. It's wonderful. And that God gives us that. But yeah. So number 2 is work on something else until you get your peace. If you are having a particularly hard day, say there's something just emotionally draining on, you have a worry, there's something in your heart that you're having to work through with the Lord, and you're having a child who's struggling in a particular area, or there's something that's hard in the curriculum or something like that, it's okay to say, hey, you know what? We're going to put math down for a little bit and let's go do science. Let's go get our nature notebooks and we're going to go look at something outside. And I want you guys to study it and find one interesting thing. And I want you to do a mini oral report on it. There are so many creative ways in homeschool to walk away from something and not walk away from homeschool. So when your brain is trying to process something that's difficult, your brain is still going to technically process it even after you walk away from it. That's why sometimes, like hours later, you're going to be like, oh, that was what I was thinking about. Why didn't I remember that? It's the same way when you're trying to learn new things. Sometimes when you walk away and you allow your brain to continually meditate on what you just were doing, it can make it easier to click later. So take the time. If you need to switch off to another subject, you can always come back and finish that subject later. And number 3 is find resources. Now, I know that the first one was all about asking for wisdom. And absolutely, I still believe that. There was a movie a long time ago called Facing the Giants. It wasn't a long time ago. It was like 14 years ago, I think. 12 years, 14 years ago. It was by the Kendrick brothers. It was one of their, I think, first movies. Don't quote me on that. But there's a line in the movie, and it goes like this. 2 farmers prayed for rain. One went out and prepared their field. Which one had faith that God would send the rain? Looking for resources is not a lack of faith. You know, we do the best that we can with as much excellence as we can give something, and we trust God with the rest. We're not doing this on our own merit. We're doing it solely by the grace of God. And there are amazing resources out there. If the frustration is coming from a child who is struggling in a certain area, or the frustration is just coming from a reading disability or needing manipulatives, I will always tell you, go pray first, because God does really hold all the answers. And then second, do research. If you don't have anything come up right then that you feel like the Lord is leading you to do, then go do some research. Go prepare your field and know that God is guiding the way, because he does promise he'll give wisdom. And sometimes we have to look for it, and sometimes God just gives it to us all at once. These resources can look like Khan Academy. These resources can look like someone in your church that has a little bit more knowledge and understanding in that area. It could look like going on a Google search and finding a curriculum that maybe matches the learning style a little bit better, or a supplemental curriculum, or maybe some manipulatives. There are so many resources out there that if your child's struggling and you're frustrated in a certain area of teaching, there are so many things that can fill in the blank for you, that you don't have to stay frustrated, that there are solutions. And I honestly believe that if you're asking for wisdom and you're going out there and doing your research, God will bring the answer. God is amazing like that. He will never let you down. And I can tell you that frustrations and those days will come, but it's how we handle it. We want to build up our children. I'm going to leave you with one last scripture today. It's from Proverbs 14:1. And it says, the wisest of women builds her house, but the foolish woman tears it down with her own hands. Let's work on building our houses. Let's work on speaking life to our children and not responding out of frustration, which is so easily done. So easily done. But by God's grace and through his power that he gives us through his Spirit, we can do this. We're not alone. God's with us, and he's helping us every step of the way. I hope you have a wonderful day. God bless, and have a great night.